Hello friends, this is Coldrun. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, where we're in Old Charlian right now. Now, last time I did the first 4 bosses, the Asphodelos Ring wing of the Pandemonium raids. This time, I don't know what we're gonna do. Overall, I see a Hunt for the Ages, no Loppert's gone before, I wanted Charlian as a minstrel. I'm going to collect some of these, and also there was a triple triad that appeared here. So I'm going to try for some of that, and if anything, I don't know, anything I especially want to show comes up, I will go to that. So first card. So we got Fortuno Leveilleur. Fortuno Leveilleur. I had heard the final days foretold. I swore to myself then and there that I would not let them steal your futures. I like that he gets kind of a sweeter card. Like, he could have had something grumpy on it, but no, he got a good one. Alright, one more to get from Celia. There we go. So, oh boy, that took a while. Endwalker, Alphino, and Alizé card. Oh, whoop, nope, did not want a rematch. Okay. We rise, fall, and rise again. Was that the line they said as, like, in tandem in Ultima Thule? Because if so, that's not my favorite one to commemorate, but I could be wrong. Anyway, what else came up here? So there's a side quest that came up here, a Heartless Hypothesis. Now, I've noticed, I put out a couple of videos of just kind of doing the side quest here, and pretty much no one watches those. So I think I'm going to just, like, if there's something that really clicks with me, I'll show it. Otherwise, I'll probably I'll just do it off camera. Bespectacled Technician, a Heartless Hypothesis. A bespectacled technician is enjoying the refreshing harbor breeze. That's blown the cobwebs away. Time to return to work. Goodness me, look who it is. How incredibly serendipitous that I would run into you of all people. I was part of the team which designed the Ragnarok, you see, and we've recently begun the process of combing through the vessel's flight log data. Okay. The primary objective of your journey to Ultima Thule was to save our star and countless others, of course, but it also provided us with an invaluable trove of information, records of places and events we could only dream of. That makes sense, yeah. Yeah, this is a huge scientific amount of data. Okay, I'm glad. One of the things we pulled was a transmission of unknown origin. Something the ship must have intercepted during its flight. We believe it to be an audio message, but even our most talented linguists have been unable to decipher the language. For a while there, it seemed we must accept defeat, but today may be the day we finally solve the mystery. Okay, so I have to head to Thomazane. It seems fitting to have... Okay, yeah, so apparently they might have an answer to this. That is surprising. Like, they might have picked up some alien language along the way and have a message that they can translate. That's kind of awesome. Ah, there you are. This is where we're told to meet the... This is where we're to meet the engineers from Garland Ironworks, who, I am told, potentially hold the key to unlocking our mystery transmission. Sorry we're late. We had some trouble finding the right... Gods, is that you, Kukushu? Is this going to be Cecil Biggs Wedge? We got Biggs. Just Biggs. Yes, the woman herself. I ran into her at the harbor and thought if anyone deserved to hear this message deciphered, it was Kukushu Kushu. Dang right. No argument here, Biggs, but bugger me if you don't have a knack for being in the right place at the right time. Again, my headcanon is that the echo is what puts the quest markers above players' heads, above NPCs' heads, and lets me be in the right place at the right time. This actually has more to do with you than you might think, so please do stick around, really. Is it like a message for me that he found? What do you got? So we think this transmission the Ragnarok intercepted is a message, albeit in a language entirely alien to our ears. The origin was likely some distant star. That makes sense. Unfortunately, our list of off-world allies is presently rather short. Right, it's the Loprits, basically. Thus, we were resigned to the fact that the meaning behind the message would remain beyond our understanding. Yeah, no babblefish here. One of my colleagues refused to give up. She remembered the Ironworks engineers who had been so helpful in the construction of the Ragnarok and turned to them for insight into our seemingly impossible problem. Sorry, just weird security pop-up thing. Do you know, Biggs, do you know what Wedge said when he heard what was going on? We should have Omega listen to it. I bet it can tell us what the message means. Like OMG? Like the little Omega? Not the Omega you beat in the Rift. He's talking about the toy that trundles around with Alpha, the little... Are they really bringing this... I guess they were back in the... This wouldn't have... Again, this would not be open to me if I hadn't done that quest, of course. I've seen it act in ways that, well, it's like it has a mind of its own. Yeah. I got to thinking about those documents your lot sent the chief. The full report on the final days... In the part about Omega's civilization, it said their people discovered how to convert the mind into data and store it outside the body. Timing being what it was, I wonder if Omega didn't somehow transfer its consciousness into our model right before you put an end to the real one. That is a terrifying prospect. But you know what? No, never mind. Alpha, you know what? Omega has the capacity for better stuff. It clearly wanted to evolve, and maybe with Alpha teaching it this time, it could do better. So, in an effort to get to the bottom of that, as well as take a crack at this indecipherable message, we decided to make some modifications. With help from Labyrinthos technicians, we've upgraded our toy Omega with a fully functional vocalization module. Hello, Alpha. I'm so happy that Alpha and Toy Omega came back to this. Wedge, we played the transmission for Omega. I think it's ready to share. What do you got? Are you in there, Omega, or hello? I think... Let's just say hello. I don't think we want to make presumptions about past identities versus who it is now. Omega. Hello. Your greeting is a standard method for initiating communication, but in this case, it was imperative that you first establish my true identity. I can't believe this is blowing my mind out. This is not like a toy replica that just kind of has cute interactions. This is actually friggin' Omega. Without confirming I am Omega, any subsequent interaction must allow for the probability you're wasting your time addressing a mere toy. Like, this is utterly shocking. This changes... Oh my god. Prediction. You will formulate several misconceptions. These I shall preemptively dismiss based on the following facts. So, the chassis remains unmodified from the design constructed by the engineers Biggs and Wedge. I evaluate its combat capabilities to be on par with a mortal infant. So it's still just, I mean, that doesn't reassure me much, because this Omega, if it has all that knowledge and programming, I'm sure it could make itself a bigger chassis or that sort of thing. 2. The mechanism which allowed me to perform an emergency transfer of my consciousness was installed in my previous body. With the destruction of that body, I am rendered incapable of replicating such a feat. Okay, so it's telling us... I guess we just have to trust it. It's telling us it doesn't have the capabilities to transfer its consciousness anymore. Should this current material form be destroyed or cease to function, all cognitive awareness or presence I possess will also be lost. Okay, so it is telling us right now that it can't just keep doing this infinitely, that if something happens to it, it's gone. I present no threat to you or your star, nor do my projections indicate the necessity to inflict harm. In the fraction of a moment before my annihilation in the rift, I re-examined my directives. I believe that. I mean, I've seen how you acted with Alpha. You didn't have to do that for some act. Especially not if you're telling us about your consciousness now. I believe that Omega is sincere here. Plus, Omega hasn't had a tendency to lie much. If I'm to fulfill my purpose as an evolving construct, I must continue my journey for improvement as long as I exist. I must acquire this heart, this strength of soul. It's too bad you didn't get to spend some time with Xenos. No, actually, you know, it's probably for the best you didn't spend some time with Xenos. Biggs, well, there you have it. It's not wrong about its combat capabilities. It'd be more likely to damage itself than the thing it was trying to attack. I'm glad to hear Biggs say that. I trust Biggs more than I trust Omega. So, yeah, so it can recognize the language. It was transmitted in Pan-Galactic Basic. A common language in comparatively extensive usage throughout the worlds we have conquered. And that's a lot of worlds. Which means you can finally tell us what the message said. That is a language you understand, yes? I mean, of course. I understand it perfectly. I'm fluent in over 6 million distinct dialectical codings. How many was C-3PO fluent in? I'm just wondering if the 6 million thing is a reference to that. I just hear I'm fluent in X forms of communication. I think, was that 6 million also? Or over 6 million? My cooperation in this matter, however, is conditional. Your Chief Sid utilizes the floor as part of his unorthodox filing system. Of course he does, which allowed me to scan the report on the final days. I'm aware that at my home star, the one you call Alphatron was obliterated in the aftermath of Sir and Medion's meeting. Yes. The existence of Dynamis has not previously factored into my projections, but I now comprehend the concept in theory. I wonder if he's going to attribute that to the reason why we had the edge, because our heart and our soul were tied to Dynamis usage. What fails to compute is why the Omicrons were not immune to its... Cat is being very loud right now. But that's his wont. As is your wont. Sorry. What fails to compute is why the Omicrons were not immune to its effects. Dynamis should have no influence on a race which possesses no heart. And yet, Sir expressed to Medion a desire to cease existing, illogical. I mean, maybe, because you're talking about how you need to evolve to develop a heart and a soul. It's possible, isn't it possible that they've continued evolving to that point too, that's where they reached? That they evolved to the point you're trying to... Alpha's sleeping. Oh my god, that's friggin' adorable. I must pursue this anomaly further until the full equation becomes clear to me. I must analyze all the elements of the final days and deepen my understanding of the heart's intangible properties. To expedite this, I require an external interpretation of those sections of the report which continue to produce errors in my calculation. So it's requesting my... does Omega go by it or they? So they're requesting my help. As one who experienced the ravages of ultimate despair on multiple fronts and displayed immeasurable heart in engineering my defeat, she's the optimal choice. Understandable. Yeah, so we don't really have much of a choice on this. Yeah, so I will humor the toy's demands. I wouldn't call it the toy, Biggs. I think that's... You know it's sentient at this point. Wedge, has Alpha dozed off? I suppose the subject was a bit technical. She's so cute! Bloop. Rouse yourself, Alpha. You must listen to and consider these matters, even as I must. Wah. Wedge, why don't you make a trip out of it? You know, actually visit the place that has the things Omega wants to ask about. It'll make explaining stuff easier for one, and also help keep Alpha awake and alert. That's fair. I don't want to bore Alpha. What a remarkable development. Biggs and Wedge told me much of your encounter with Omega before we began, and now that we have the Omicron's weapon talking, there's so many questions I am simply dying to ask, I'll bet. But you have Omega here, just you can... That's such a... If you can get Omega to cooperate with you, that's like... God, your science can advance by leaps and bounds, because I don't think Omega is bound by any sort of prime directive. Back when we were first exploring our options, we actually did consider playing the transmission to the inhabitants of Ultima Thule. I'm glad you didn't. That would have been risky. Oh, and problem is we'd be dealing with beings recreated through Dynamis, right? There weren't the actual ones. The communication is based on emotional energy, and anything lacking that vital component would likely fail to register. Yes. Yeah, so that makes sense. Omega has been an outright terror to us in the past, but it's almost strange how little it frightens me now. I think I would rein that... I would rein that in. I've seen enough, like... I don't know. I've seen Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood where, like, the small thing in a bottle, like, may not be as harmless as it seems. And it helps that it follows Alpha around like a puppy. That is pretty cute. Most of all, I remember the chief telling me how much it sounded like a lost child there at the end. That's true. It's... Even when it had power, like, you were starting to see it express the truth of its thoughts and conditions. So it's not like it's just trying to put on an act right now. I buy that. Yeah, I don't think Sid will want to destroy Omega at this point. Nero, on the other hand, he'll want to use the model for some dangerous experiments. I agree. I would definitely hold off on telling Nero about this. Alpha Que. Okay, Omega. Here we go. Setting aside the matter of Sir, there are 3 elements on the report on which I desire clarification. First, the progression of the final days in Radzat Han. I recognize no pattern in those who succumbed to the transformation and those who did not. I mean, that I can help you with. Biggs, that's a bit of a trek if you wanted to chat with the locals. How about we lend you an airship? We do not require such outmoded technology. Kukushu's teleportation spell is the most efficient option for long-distance travel. Geralt disliked that. This chassis is a model, essentially a toy, and Alpha is indistinguishable from a stuffed doll. So, yeah, so that's so interesting. We qualify as material possessions. Pick us up and you can teleport the 3 of us to our destination. I guess that makes sense. That's why I don't teleport somewhere just, like, naked. Because I guess, yeah, anything counts as possession for these purposes. Like, that's so cool. I just never thought of that. Begin Omega's journey for answers. Hell yes. Where? I love Alpha. Friggin' love Alpha. I mean, I can't really pick you up. Omega's basically as big as me, if not bigger, and probably significantly heavier. Okay, so we're here in Radzat Han. Oh, I didn't even think to look here, but yeah, some new stuff has opened up here. The Sleeping Gentleman. A place to train. By the way, at this point, one of the things I eventually want to do, not immediately, but probably like the next thing I want to do, that once I've finished all the raids and MSQ and all this kind of stuff. Oh, and there's something over here too. Bitter Snow. Once I finish all that sort of stuff, I think the next thing I actually want to do is work on my crafting and bringing all my crafting and gathering up jobs up to 90. Any suggestions about how to do rotations, like, while I'm doing that? I don't know. I don't know. I'm never quite sure how to do that. Anyway. Alpha. Look Flip. Sensors indicate we have arrived in Radzat-Han. Objective. Identify factors for resistance to involuntary transformation. Hypothesis. Unaltered survivors of the final days will display significant strength of heart. That's my hypothesis too. Confirming this will require the cooperation of a live subject. Where is the ward designated for residential habitation? That's the thing in the up the stairs to the northwest, right? All right, we're heading to Kama. What do you folks have to say? Discuss the stairs with Alpha. Quack. Alpha chirps enthusiastically, apparently unfazed by the prospect of climbing these stairs. I don't think Omega's going to be that bothered either. Warning. Oh, never mind. Please avoid the stairs whenever possible. My projections indicate high-risk probability for accidental slippage leading to catastrophic structural damage. How about I just pick you up? Stepped inclines also tire my energy consumption by 63%. In mortal terms, they tire me out. I'm so happy with this quest, with this development, with everything about this. Taking into account the difference in individual limb strength, the design is inherently flawed. A convenient step height for one is an exhausting trial for another. I agree. I very much agree. Alpha says universal design. Alpha says accessible design. Were I to oversee the civic design of this settlement, I would construct a sloped conveyor belt which enabled automatic traversal. Zero personal energy expenditure. Omega, disability rights activist. Was the Radzat-Han music always this upbeat? It's this, like, this funky, kind of jazzy version of that theme, and it's... either I never noticed it before, or it's way different now. Melancholy man. Are you a traveler? Please, if you have a moment, I could use an outsider's perspective. I was one of those who sought to escape the madness plaguing the world by fleeing to the moons. Not that we ever went. So here I am, recently returned from Charlian. Except now things are strained between my sister and I, since she chose to stay and I chose to leave. I ask her to help me find work, and she suggests I look somewhere that isn't Thavnair. As if I wanted to abandon my home. It makes me so angry. Omega, your point is unclear. Ow. The danger of having a cat is that if you pet him and he enjoys it, he claws your chest in, like, to flex his claws in happiness. You elected to relocate to the star's satellite. Thus, your relative now perceives you in a negative light. Ah, that's what it is. Your sibling's judgment is an error. Based on the information made available to Hanish citizens, your decision to withdraw to the moon was both logical and correct. Conversely, the decision to remain in Radzat-Han, despite the low probability of survival, defies explanation. Perhaps her reasoning pathways are faulty. Melancholy man, that's right. I'm not quite sure what you're saying, but I'm right, aren't I? Or so I'd like to think. The problem is I understand why my sister feels this way. I almost decided against going myself. Even then, I wasn't sure leaving everything behind. Leaving behind everything I loved was the right choice, and with the way it all turned out, I should be having this talk with my sister. Yeah. Anything new from you? Yeah, okay. I mean, I think he clearly made the right decision for pure survival. Like, I don't know, I'm thinking of the end of Ragnarok, of Thor Ragnarok, that, you know, the end of people is not the place it inhabits, it's those people surviving. Mati, are you the sister? No, you're not. Oh, no. Hello again. You're the one who came to ask me questions about Khalza. Yes. Yeah, Khalza was the blasphemy, if I remember correctly, or yeah, I think Khalza was the blasphemy, or person who turned into the blasphemy. Glad to see you're looking well. Mate, I remember the burning skies and hearing the screams, but truth be told, I'm confused as to what actually happened. It wasn't unusual for entire families to go missing. Many of my neighbors' houses lie empty even now. It's gotta be eerie. Kalzal's place is one of them. He had no close relatives to speak of, and I heard that it was members of the consortium who came to remove his belongings. What a terrible thing to have to do. Omega, terrible. Kalzal's passing was recorded in the report. Clearing out his domicile and readying it for new habitation seems an appropriate reallocation of resources. Mate, what a clever little contraption. I hope Omega doesn't feel annoyance. But of course, I'm not against making use of his quarters. That would be wasteful. It's simply that Kalzal was always such a vigorous person. All that passion, all those dreams suddenly gone. I feel that same sorrow for everyone who is lost. Seeing the remnants of those vibrant lives packed away in boxes, that is what I mean by terrible. Yeah, she's not saying that you should... She's acknowledging that even if you don't take action to make that emotion override everything else, that emotion exists. That mourning. Then we have Huron Boy. I know you. You told me to join everyone in the squad. Yeah, so this boy is one of the ones that we helped shepherd to safety during that time. Thanks to you, I was there when Vritra gave his speech, and I found out who Varshan really was. It's a shame we don't get to play like we used to, but Mama says Vritra has been busy putting the city back in order. Yeah, that's got to be weird to find out that your playmate was like an ancient dragon god. Maybe I can work for him one day when I'm a man grown. Omega, Vritra, Midgar Sormer's offspring, yes? And this child wishes to put himself at the worm's command that he might make his own contribution to society. You must like that, Omega. That probably sounds logical. A pattern emerges. I predict that the Honish survivors are those who had... those who had ingested Vritra's blood and become his draconic minions. I don't think that's the case. Though dragons were no match for our civilization's might, their combat capabilities are not to be underestimated. It is unlikely they would experience emotions of dread or uncertainty as exhibited by lesser beings in times of undue stress. Are you sure? Because I was there. I was in that, the dungeon whose name I don't remember. I saw Vritra reacting to seeing his people, turned, and he has just as much emotion, dread, and uncertainty as anyone else, as any lesser being. Huron Boy, dragons? I'm not a dragon. I never ingested anyone's blood either. Gross. Omega, you are not of Vritra's horde, so you possess no hidden means to fight off the beast. What a fear, then? You were frightened? Yeah, I was frightened. I just hid and hoped they wouldn't find me, at least until she told me it was safe to come out. Rokusho, I require a moment to process this input. Let's move apart and discuss our findings. This is just so cool. Processing data, evaluating hypothesis against accumulated evidence. I offered an optimal analysis of each subject's testimony, yet each time their responses conflicted with my assessment. Without identifying the root cause of this conflict, I will be unable to properly define what constitutes strength of heart. Perhaps the heart you seek lies in the conflict itself. Perhaps we should consider the continued... Perhaps this matters beyond you. Rude AF. No. Perhaps the heart you seek lies in the conflict itself. Yeah, 100%. Possible my base criteria is an error, yes. It's imperative I continue this learning process and repair my fundamental misconceptions. Okay, next, I wish to interact with an individual who endured similar circumstances to Kalzal prior to his transformation. Any local merchants to a deal? Yeah, so there's the Arkasodra, or I can't remember, the elephant person. I don't remember which is the overall and which is the individual tribe. Oh, Junabaha of Ruveda Fibers. I wasn't thinking of him. I was thinking of, I wasn't thinking of them. I was thinking of, was it Matya? I think Matya. So another of these dialogue points. What are we going to talk about this time? Discuss the Hamsa. Oh, the little chicken things. Quack, 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 quack. Alpha looks back and forth between Omega and the Hamsa, showing visible concern. Are you scared of the Hamsa and you want Omega to protect you? Or are you afraid Omega's gonna, like, blast the Hamsa and you want to protect it? Omega, halt, Kakushu. Do not proceed beyond the... Did Omega have a bad experience where, like, the Hamsa chased it? In this body, birds of that size represent lethal, unthinking threats. They will peck my casing apart, searching for meat that does not exist. Conversely, Alpha can correctly identify my absence of nutritional content. If only he would apply that intelligence towards maintaining a regular feeding schedule. Poor habits adversely affect his mobility. Oh no, Alpha's living off of, like, random ramen packets. They are so friggin' cute. Not just individually, the pair of them, the way they act together, Omega's clear, like, care for and respect for Alpha. It's so good. Jinabaha. Well, look who it is. Must thank you again for your help in moving our textiles. That's right, that's what we knew this person from. So recovering from the tragic events has been difficult, but with everyone pulling together, they've managed to get things back up and running. Omega, Jinabaha, I come with questions related to that tragedy, specifically your survival. So you're similar to Kalzal, but he succumbed and you didn't. Why? Yeah, Jinabaha probably doesn't know. I'm not especially brave or courageous, if that's what you're asking. Perhaps being focused on protecting our workshop kept me from spinning into a panic. Still, I imagine Kalzal would have been feeling that same sense of responsibility. Yeah, I don't think that's it. Perhaps the weight of it all is what invited his demise. I think it's just the quantity of that. Omega, you were of the same mind, resolved to the same purpose. Yet your strength of heart, of spirit, was not equal. If merely emulating the individual is insufficient, then some other factor must be involved. So, Jinabaha wants a favor, though. What is it? There's a man by the name of Nashvan who has been helping us out here while he gets back on his feet. I have a feeling he'd benefit from speaking with you. Leave by the eastern exit. You should find him just outside organizing some new inventory items. Yeah, God, this music really, it feels like it has this, like, Cuban, like, Latin flavor to it. Alright, discuss the Thavnarian weed with Alpha. Alpha puffs out his chest proudly, implying that his Ironworks uniform is the best attire anyone could wear. Alpha, I want to hug you in real life, and I'm so mad that you're not right here. Where's Pigeon? Pigeon left. Pigeon had enough of me hugging him. Omega. The equipment being manufactured here, it's worn to perform specific duties, yes? Conceptually, it seems analogous to our practice of switching frames to better serve our mission objectives. I don't think so. Because a lot of this is, some of this is more aesthetic, it's about pure aesthetics and feel rather than, like, I don't know, wearing garb that will give you the most aerodynamic tailoring abilities. I, for example, did not begin existence with the Omega model. I was originally supplied with a standard issue Omicron chassis, M017. On this world, that alphanumeric combination would be considered my given name. Did we meet a 017 in that world? I don't think so, but maybe. On this world, that seems possible, but I have no memory of that. I wouldn't remember, though. Such designations are drawn from our nearly infinite register of celestial bodies to avoid the possibility of duplication. Furthermore, the cluster known as M017 is better expressed in your language as the Omega Nebula, the same word I used to introduce myself to your kind. Though you associate Omega with the advanced weapon construct, it is also my name, and I see no reason to change it, no matter which frame I inhabit. So that Because I've been wondering about that. So, like, is it like a DS9 Bajor, not Bajoran, DS9 Trill thing where, like, you're now a combination of the chassis? But no, you're basically, your identity is the same one as before with no significant modifications from the entity we fought. That's really good to know. That's all our orders accounted for, and everything looks to be of good order. Kamala will be pleased. Oh, a robot and a chicken. You were with the Scions. You were the... I like that I'm the one that gives him concern, not Omega and the engineer besuited, the bespoke besuited engineering alpha. I'm sure of it. I'll never forget that day. You and your friends helped us escape when people began changing into beasts. Am I going to be the common factor in this? Because all these people we're talking to were helped out by me, so maybe Omega's going to see that this is kind of a group thing, that, like, you can lend this heart to other people. And no one was there to lend their heart to Halsal. Maybe that was it. You and your friends helped us escape, yeah. That's my working theory now. Even my own son was afflicted. Then that huge monstrosity loomed right over him, and I remember my heart turning to ice, freezing in place. The satrap came to my aid, but then he too was gone. Yeah, this is going to surprise Omega, because he's seeing this person, he's here, he was expecting, like, this person to be like, yeah, I didn't feel fear, I was brave. No, this person was at their lowest low. Raha. The memories run together in my mind like flashes from a nightmare. Only the words of your comrades still ring clear. I repeated them over and over like a mantra as I fled for my life. You must run for their sake and your own, yet people are communal beings, we're collective beings. My 18-year-old Ayn Rand worshipping self wouldn't have agreed that, but I am no longer 18, thank goodness. Nashvan, it seemed so surreal, which was probably what saved me from the transformation. The truth didn't begin to sink in until the worst was over. I have not the words to describe how I felt then. The sorrow, the overwhelming sense of helplessness. I may still be wallowing in misery if not for my old friend Jinabaha. Again, a sense of other people. I'd lost my will to work and he encouraged me with kind words and odd jobs. Now somehow I live again. I'm thankful to him, to the courageous Ahewan, and to you. If you see your comrades, please let them know their efforts were not in vain. I'm shaking my head more out of, like, approval, like this is, yeah. Omega, you said you lost your will to work. This signifies a cessation of efforts to maintain basic life functions, yes? To some people. What changed to extract you from that stagnation? An offer of work from Jinabaha should mean little to one without the desire to accept it. Good question. Some manner of mortal instinct, a primal need to survive and thrive? Instinct? No, it wasn't that. If anything, my instincts were telling me to lay down and welcome an end to the pain. Every day I think of my boy's final moments. I think of how scared he must have been, how it must have hurt, and I want to scream my throat raw. The satrap, too, still haunts my dreams. I see him being swallowed whole and jolt awake in a cold sweat. But something changed when Jinabaha came to me. I looked up and saw that even without my son or Ahewan, the world around me continued to turn. He saw that there was more beyond this. And because that fact grieved me so, I knew it fell to me to live on and remember them. This is much more nuanced than well, no, it's 14. It's not more nuanced than I should have expected. Strange, isn't it? What drives me to rise in the morning is the very sorrow which once crippled me. It's just, this has just got my mind whirring. Whirring and whirring. I really must return to my work. To lose this job after everything I said would be a poor jest indeed. This is just fast. This is just such a well-written quest line. Sorrow, the emotion generated by mortals when their ideals fail to materialize. This I have observed. Yet when I listen to how Nashvan's sorrow served to rescue him from near-fatal despondency, his logic eludes me. It's really hard for me to put into words. Am I incapable of perceiving the full measure of the heart's properties? My best projections fail to predict our subject's responses, and despite their almost equal occupational and mental parameters, Jinabaha and Kalzal exhibited different reactions to the dynamis effect. I'm no closer to recognizing the pattern for involuntary transformations, and your ephemeral mortal spirits confound me as much, if not more, than they did before. Have you considered that there is no pattern to the people afflicted? Even I don't believe that. I think it's just that I think there is a pattern there. It's just, it's really hard to piece together because you don't have all the information of what's going on in their hearts and souls, and it's a hard thing to calculate. Not because it's incalculable, but because I think if you had all the information in front of you, you could calculate it. But I think being able to get that information and add up the emotional weight of all these different things that part is the part that's impossible. The hearts of others were ever shrouded in mystery, yeah. Even to you. This matter is more complicated than I initially calculated, yeah. If those possessed of heart cannot fathom the behavior of their own kind, then my lack of understanding is inevitable. It's not impossible, but yeah, it makes sense. I'm glad you're accepting that this will be tough. My investigations here are exhausted. In lieu of a full conclusion, I'll settle for storing this data for future analysis. Let's progress to the next element of the report that you might continue my education. Okay. Okay. I'm coming at this the next day. I have slept and worked, and yeah, it's the next day, so I'm ready to continue and see where this quest goes from here. So Omega, goodbye. Abducted? No idea. No clue what that's supposed to mean. Goodbye something. Maybe it'll become clear later. Omega has selected a new destination. Our next destination will be Camp Broken Glass. I desire elaboration on the dealings between the Ilsabard contingent and the citizens of Garlemald. Yeah, so the other place where, well, not the only other place, but another place where there were a lot of transformations. The report described the contingent's purpose as the salvation of the local populace. Furthermore, both factions faced a common enemy in the Talaferoi. Why did they not immediately combine forces to their mutual benefit? This inconsistency requires closer examination. Kakusha, initiate teleportation. I am Omega's taxi. And this one feels like an easier answer automatically. I could be wrong, but I mean the mistrust and the lack of apprehension around the challenge was like, and the history there and the politics, like that almost feels like an easier answer than the emotional stuff. I mean, it is emotional too, though. Omega, teleportation successful. Evaluating immediate environs, a cold weather region by theorist standards, but significantly less extreme than a star with ice planet classifications. Yes. That's correct. This body should not be unduly impeded. In contrast to Alpha and his uncontrollable shivering, my frame appears highly resistant to low temperatures. Alpha, we're going to bundle you up. Retrieving data. Records indicate that remnants of the contingent force and a number of Imperial citizens yet inhabit this location. Okay, yeah, so let's talk with some of them. Just looking for, are there question mark or those ... points? Nothing that I see. So we're going straight to the talking. So we're talking with both a contingent member and an Imperial citizen. We'll start with the Resistance. Kukushu, come to see how things are progressing. Yes. Well, no. Can't speak for the overall strategy, but communication with the locals has become a damn sight easier since Euless and his soldiers stepped in to help, I'd imagine. We still face our fair share of distrust. Some folk even think we're enslaving minds with our own foreign magics. We have Anima to thank for putting that idea in their heads. Among other people. I mean, Anima's one. Anima amplified it, but I think they were always going to be worried about you, especially given their history and lack of ability to do magic. Yeah, so establishing an open dialogue was a big step. Omega query, you consider this level of progress acceptable? The reality of your efforts falls far short of the ideal. If your aim is to provide efficient succor to the local populace, then absorbing their numbers into your command structure would be the optimal path. I mean, it's to... I'm not sure what they mean by when they say if you're absorbing them into your command structure, but I don't think they would want to do that. And even if they do, I think that would lead to a whole bunch of chaos. Oh, I wouldn't want to go that far. We're not looking to take over their nation. If we're to do this the right way, we need to recognize and respect each other's way of life. So while it may not be the easiest solution, I think it'll be easier in the long run than conquering them, certainly. I agree with the contingent, slow and steady approach. I'm just happy we're saving lives. Emaciated refugee. Shadow from the past. Yes, I know you from Victor's spoils. Have you come to laugh at me, a wretch who chose to lose Licinia and her sister rather than accept your help? Laugh at me, a wretch who chose to lose Licinia and her sister rather than... Oh, it's this guy! Okay. A fool who ended up reliant upon your charity nonetheless. I just got here, dude. Well, perhaps I deserve your derision. My compatriots surely scorn my failed conviction. I have shamed my people and brought dishonor upon my nation. I am no better than a kept beast my pride sold for a bowl of feed. And Omega, if you were wondering why we don't just accept them into our command structure, I mean... But my soul, nay, that you shall not have. I've refused your honeyed offers of a new home. This land is where I belong, and this is where I shall remain. I'm not forcing you anywhere, dude. Omega, you demonstrate opposition to the contingent's overtures. On what basis do you refuse this cooperation? The data suggests the local populace is struggling to produce the bare minimum of sustenance. Have you some secret strategy for survival, or do your orders compel you to accept your present misfortune? I think it's more history and pride. Emaciated refugee. What? Must I be mocked by a Magitech toy now? No, I have no secret strategy, no binding orders. I but comport myself as any true Garlean patriot would. Uncompromising, unbending. Yeah, it certainly worked out well for Quintus, didn't it? Blast it all. Omega, once again, this input is unanticipated. Let's move aside and process what we've heard. Okay? What do you got, Omega? I have evaluated this most recent input and made comparisons to our discoveries in Razat Han. Okay. Consistent only in their inconsistency. I don't think that's the only thing they're consistent in. Their responses from both contingent member and Imperial citizen were highly irrational. Conversely, any Omicron considering their predicaments would have echoed my assessment exactly. I'm not surprised. That makes sense. The divergence from self-evident logic is key. Hypothesis. The illogical relationship between would-be saviors and suffering populace is another result of the unpredictable nature of mortal hearts. I'd question how unpredictable it is, but maybe it's only predictable to me because I'm more familiar with the unpredictable, with the non, the non-Omega style of Mortal Hearts. Any property or ability has inherent advantages and disadvantages. Agreed. Yet never have I encountered such a unique detriment. It appears that those who share your metaphysical capabilities are prone to complicating simple cognitive processes. Boy, do you have that one correct. An undesirable quality. Is it? I mean, yeah, I guess it is undesirable. I guess if you could turn it off and just immediately come to the decision you'd want, then I think most people would probably accept that, would take that. I will, however, persist in furthering my understanding of the subject. Bless Alpha. Query, prior to formulating our next step, I wish to know, who is this Licinia the Imperial mentioned? Oh, I don't know how I did that. Acknowledged. To summarize, insufficient data on foreign culture resulted in inadvisable and ultimately fatal action. Yes, that is a good summary. I witnessed such self-destructive behavior during the course of our planetary conquests. I'll bet you did. Overwhelmed enemy forces would voluntarily withdraw into perilous regions, leading to a succession of inevitable losses. Tangential data request. I wish to learn about burial customs. The practice has ever seemed nonsensical, but new data suggests it arises from the same source as your cognitive complications. Take me to this Licinia's burial site. It may aid me in understand. Are you freezing? Are you locking up? Energy delivery systems compromised. Core temperature critically low. Immediate heating required. Apply friction to outer frame. Quick, Alpha, hug him. Hug it. Hug them. Sorry, I'm so used to calling Omega him just out of raw habit for no good that developed for no good reason. Okay, do we have to hug you? Rub some warmth. No, we're rubbing. Temperature nominal. Energy level stabilizing. Okay, we saved the star-spanning ancient being from getting a little bit chilly. The creators of this model must have experienced impaired cognitive reasoning during the design process. I don't think they expected you to be... I think if they knew they were making a chassis designed for a fully sentient, non-hostile robot to... or being to move about the world freely, I think they would have treated it a little bit differently. Upon our return, I will request additional climate shielding as well as an accurate temperature sensor array. This will not affect my combat capabilities, but should improve my basic survival rate. Reconfirming sub-destination. Which direction will we find Victor's spoils? Oh, God. So, why are you doing... I mean, why is this... I guess, are you trying to get the full experience? You're trying to see, like, what this sort of result looks like in this particular context, this illogical action? Alpha, you were to remain in close proximity, close enough to envelop me in your feathers. You are permitted to carry me on your back, if you so choose. Alpha is best boy. One of the game's many best boys. So this is at Victor's Spoils. A decisively deep snowdrift almost defeated me, but we have successfully arrived at the location you indicated. Nice persistence. Caution advised. An unknown individual appears to be investigating the object of my interest. I wouldn't call that grave the object of your interest to that person's face, but yeah, he does. You're Eorzea's champion, aren't you? Kushu. You coming to give me what for, or... Probably not. Maybe some minor sass, but I don't think you're gonna yell at me. Oh, I never introduced myself, did I? I am Manius, soldier of the 1st Legion and comrade of Eulus. Perhaps you remember me from Tertium. We spoke about collecting cerule. Oh, it's this guy from the... Was this guy on the train, or... I think this guy was on the... No, I don't... I definitely remember a conversation about collecting ceruleum, and again later on after Lord Quintus had passed. This music. Yeah, so outside the train in this case. At least at one of those meetings. Manius, explanation requested. What is the reason for your presence here? Manius, that must be the tiniest Magitech weapon. Oh, no, it's just an oddly shaped communicator, isn't it? Let's go with that. In any case, I have nothing worthy to report. I heard that the sisters who used to live in my sector were buried here, so I thought I'd come and pay my respects. Alphino and Alizé told me the story, complete with profuse apologies, though they were adamant that no amount of remorse could erase the tragedy of what came to pass. Not that my fellow soldiers and I are in any place to judge. We were manipulated, fooled into starting an insurrection which led to countless deaths among our own countrymen. I think you are exactly the person Omega wants to speak to. Objection. Objection! The casualties incurred through your infighting are distinct from those caused by the Ilsabard contingent. To restate, you are justified in seeking restitution from the contingent for causing the deaths of Licinia and her sister. Retaliation for damages sustained is also a logical progression. You're trying to foment some rebellion here. I can deduce 2 reasons why you do not initiate hostilities with Kakushu and her allies. So one is, Omega's going to say that this guy thinks he'll lose, and the other is to buy this time. Is that, I think, that are those the 2 things going to go with? Yeah, so one is you judge your remaining forces too weakened to contend effectively. 2, oh no, 2 is the real reason. Your emotions are complicating the issue. I mean, 1 is absolutely the case, but that's not the main reason he's acting as he is. Which of these is correct? Well, when you lay it out like that, I'm afraid my answer isn't like to win me any medal, so would you mind keeping this to yourselves? Yeah. There's the unspoken thought that we're outmatched on the battlefield, certainly, but the real reason I'm not demanding restitution has little to do with weighing the odds. Yeah. The simple truth is I'm so caught up with simple survival, I've no strength to spare for past grievances. I didn't think of it like that, but that actually does make sense. The same goes for avenging any comrades we've lost, be that my brothers in arms or Lord Quintus himself. Although it seems everyone has an opinion about the manner of his passing. I wonder if they keep that banner up there. Some say he should have fought until the end, that he abandoned us to the enemy. Others praise him for taking the full burden of responsibility and freeing us to walk our own path. There's really no easy answer for that, is there? I mean, we have the advantage where we saw his final moments, and it was like he knew they were lost, and he'd rather die than live in shame. Or live in defeat, and he also didn't want to sacrifice any more soldiers. So he didn't want to keep fighting for that reason. I don't know who's right and who's wrong, but I'm inclined to side with the latter. He gave us the freedom of choice, and that's the choice I made. I could cry and rant and rage, but what would be the point? I'll save my energy for worrying about my next meal, my next task. I need to focus on the ones left behind, on making some kind of life for my comrades and me. And if I need to lean on the contingent to do that, then that's what I'll do. Even if their aid comes at a price, I'm willing to pay it. Omega is getting to see a full spectrum of responses here. This is a great, like almost like a summary of the conflict and the emotional heart of the conflict. Even amongst your own, there are times when cooperation demands compromise. What matter that they're outsiders? Besides, I think I could grow to like Alphino and Alizé. I think you could too. They've reached out to us with kindness and compassion from the very beginning. Summation. Oh, Omega. Summation. Your desire to survive, even should it mean aligning with the contingent, was a feeling you already harbored. That's why he doesn't want others... Not why he doesn't want others to... Well, yeah, he doesn't want others to know. I mean, that... Boy, does that not sound like the feelings of what the emaciated guy would call a true Garlean patriot. That your side has committed worse atrocities was the logic you invented later to justify your reasoning. Blunt but accurate, I suppose. The heart is honest about what it wants, even if the mind takes a while to reconcile the decision. I love that line. Those... Oh, look at that little cocked head, that big, expressive chocobo eyes. Well, this has been oddly cathartic. Oh my... Here, I want a whole subplot about... Maybe that's what we're getting. I was going to say I want a whole subplot where Omega becomes, like, a therapist. And I think that maybe that's what's happening. Just very direct, very honest observation. Bringing people's contradictions to light, seeing what they think of it. I think Omega would be good at that. Well, this has been oddly cathartic, but I must return to my duties. There are wild beasts to cull, watchfires to light, supplies to transport. Even without an emperor, there's no rest for an imperial. See you, friend. Upon review of recent input, I have arrived at an unexpected conclusion. I've been formulating my assessments on the premise that it was man who commanded the strength of his heart. But the data suggests the opposite is true. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think that there are things you can do to strengthen the heart a little bit, but a lot of the time you're just trying to deal with how it feels and not be dragged along by it too. I don't know. The surge of spirited feelings of emotions can entangle your thoughts to such a degree that even control over your own behavior is compromised. Yes. It seems a most counterproductive specification. And yet, this also explains why my interactions with mortal subjects have produced more confusion than clarification. Formidable barrier to understanding. You're getting there. You're certainly getting there. This is a very sincere investigation that they're doing. My earlier hypothesis has been borne out. The suboptimal operation being conducted here is the result of emotionally compromised reasoning. All right, the third and final query. These, I mean, they're not wrong. Like, if emotions were not part of this, if we were just acting in pure self-interest or interest as a species, I don't know that burial wouldn't come into play. I mean, beyond, I think, beyond not spreading disease, this is... The actions that we're taking are all emotionally compromised. And I don't think that's always a bad... I think, again, I think part of where this is leading to is that that's a main strength, is that this is probably what led to a group survival. It's in the end, it's probably what led to us surviving, some people surviving, not getting turned, is, being emotionally bound to others. I'm really curious to hear what y'all think of this and where you come down on some of these topics. Oh, the third topic. I would learn more about those referred to as ancients. This group was a crucial factor in the final days, but the information contained in the report was insufficient to form an overview. Are you coming with me to Elpis? No, to the moon. The Loprits are creations of the ancients and said to maintain repositories of their knowledge. All right, so we're heading to the burrow. Let's go. Alpha is looking up in awe at the ceiling. Look at him! Okay. Omega. Friggin' Alpha. It's like Alpha's like a cute cheat code. Your teleportation spell was successful. We appear to have arrived at the location described as Best Ways Burrow. Yes. All right, so you want to see their technology. This body, however, lacks my previous frame's advanced observational functionality. So you're going to have to talk to the Loporrits, aren't you? Growing way. No, it can't be. This is like when cute meets cute meets cute meets demon potato. It is you! Oh, Kakusha, I've missed you so. What's this you've brought with you? This soft, feathery vision. We've been outfluffed. Pack up the moon, it's all over. Why bother with burrow-building bunnies when you could walk around with this adorable avian engineer? Just bake me into a pie and be done with it. I cannot get over how good this is. They do acknowledge their role here. This is like Kawaii Wars. Inspect our inventions. Wait, you're not done with us? No. The face rub. I wasn't truly worried, of course, and I certainly wasn't about to roll myself in dough and dive into Cooking Way's new oven. A gruesome turn. If a technical breakdown is what you need, I am your Loporrit. As the resident atmospheric regulation expert, I can field any question or query you might care to pose. Omega, acceptable. I will employ this being to guide me around the facilities. Your presence is not mandatory. Even locked within my current chassis, I am still an autonomous construct that has endured hundreds of your life cycles. I am capable of completing this simple objective alone. Are you sure? I mean, you seem pretty sure, I guess. Okay. So am I just going to hang with Alpha? Nope, Alpha's hanging with his buddy. Oh, welcome back from the tour. What happened to Growing Way? No, I assume that Growing Way just went on his own. Was the tour helpful? Affirmative. I observed a representative cross-section of the Loporrit's engineering capabilities. My guide required more time to confirm the answer to certain questions, but overall we made efficient progress. Extrapolating from the fraction of technology on display, the full spectrum of the Ancients' advancements was, at minimum, equivalent to a level 4 civilization. No clue what that means in the context of how many levels there are. A fact which demands further investigation. No, it sounds like the fact that they said, the fact that Omega says, despite establishing a near-ideal society, so level 4 is pretty high praise from Omega. These beings nevertheless harbored a weakness which invited self-destruction. In studying them, I stand to gain a greater understanding of Sir's anomalous decision. That's what it all comes down to, isn't it? Trying to understand Sir. Growing Way informed me that another type of ancient-made entity exists upon this satellite, the one they call the Watcher. I would speak to him. Okay. I get to see the Watcher's cool robes again, too, which I like. Then conserve your ether. We will ride this Argos to our destination as you have suggested. Yes. Alpha and Omega riding on the doggo. Riding on best doggo. How you doing, Argos? Argos is pointedly ignoring the existence of Alpha and Omega. Okay. Alpha's pretty happy to see a doggo. Impedance detected. The creature identified as Argos refuses to acknowledge our presence. You've never dealt with cats, have you? Hypothesis. Upon our arrival, Growing Way expressed concern that he had been outfluffed. This suggests the existence of a fluff-based hierarchy. My station in such a system would be predictably low, but Argos is adamant in ignoring even Alpha. Its fluffiness level is impossible to gauge. God bless the writers, God bless the translators, God bless this game for existing at all. Argos turns to you with an impassive gaze. It seems you will need to intervene. You're the fluffiest of them all, dear Argos. Yeah, let me try to appeal to to this fluff-based hierarchy. You're the fluffiest of them all, dear Argos. Argos gives an exasperated snort before motioning to his back. It seems you have permission to climb aboard. Yes, with his I love that the game even sort of gave some validation to the joke about the fluff-based hierarchy. Not really, because I'm sure this is... I suppose your body does exhibit a special kind of fluffiness. I haven't allowed myself to become distracted. I'm glad you have. Let this continue on. The Watcher. I was bemused by the arrival of these small visitors, but I see they are companions of yours, yes. What a rare thing for my abode to be thus crowded. How may I be of service to you? Omega, hello, Watcher. My purpose here is to learn more about the Ancients. I would know of their deeds, their philosophies, very nature of their hearts. I would understand why the final days were visited upon my home star. A worthy endeavor, but there is another better suited to assisting with you with that task. Ah, yeah. Perhaps you might favor us with a tale or two of the Ancients you met during your travels, Kukushu. My fragmented memories would be a pale substitute for the clarity of your more recent experiences. Plenty of emotion there. The Watcher. Yes, I can envision every detail. Your meeting with Venand, Emmett Selk, and Hythlodaeus, the sorrow and determination of Hermes. I am a creation of Heideland, and as such, I believe the Age of Ancients would fade and be forgotten. Yet knowing that their memory lives so vividly within you, it brings me great joy. I pray you to keep them close to your heart. At the time of your journey to the past, the one whose essence I embody would have been a scholar at Aneder. Aneder? Aneder? A shame. Had you reason to go there, perhaps you might have met. Is it La Habrea? Are you La Habrea? Oh, no, you're probably just a scholar, not like necessarily one of the big 13 or 14. As a man of learning, he was firm friends with Venad. They spent long hours trading theories or debating the laws of the universe. I remember joining her faction as the final days bore down upon us, yet of the events surrounding that tragedy I recall precious little. Heidelin wished for the people of your age to decide their own path. Thus, I suspect my recollection was limited by design. Yet even she could not cut away one persistent memory. I feel most distinctly his sadness at what was to come to pass, that in becoming Heidelin's heart, Venad would forever stand apart from the people she so loved. If she were so resolved in her convictions, then he too would share her sleepless vigil over the future yet to unfold. Thus was the vow he made to Venad as her transformation took hold. I don't think this is meant to be romantic, but that's incredibly romantic. His fervent wish must have reached her in some fashion. For though his life was drained away by the summoning, he was reborn with new form and new purpose when I awoke as the Watcher of the Moon. And you heard, Kukushu, you felt, you thought. Hear, feel, think. And in seizing the future for yourselves, have you brought full circle the saga which Venad began. What you accomplished was no divine miracle, it was but the beacon of hope passed down from one generation to the next. Yeah, we've been on the front side of that sort of thing ourselves with Shadowbringers. A succession of wishes and prayers reshaping or we actually were on the back end of that. Reshaping the star into the world we knew you deserved. Well, we were on the front and back end of that. You have our deepest gratitude. I thank you not only as myself, but as the man I once was, and on behalf of those who devoted themselves to Venad's vision. What are you going to do now, Watcher? Bloop, bloop. I understand the facts of your story, Kukushu, but not how you have chosen to process them. On what grounds do you speak of Venad with such fondness? Well, I spend time with her. I'm not sure what you mean. By sundering the world, she ultimately guided your kind to victory, yet in doing so caused irreparable damage to its individual members. Did she? I don't think she did. When you compare the path she took with the path that she didn't take, with if she had not acted, I think this is the far less harmful, less damaging path. The full scale of that act is beyond calculation. It is evident, however, that it resulted in a protracted period of suboptimal existence for Emmett Selkin's brethren. Correct. Query. If the survival of your kind is the deciding factor in your evaluation, then should you not also admire Hermes and his decision to subject man to a trial? Forcing you to change or perish, as was the fate of countless civilizations before you. If the survival of your kind is the deciding factor in your evaluation, and I think it's as good a factor as any, then should we admire Hermes's trial? So there's two questions that jump to mind. Was the intention and the result? I guess did Hermes know that causing this storm of despair would result in a better outcome than not causing the storm of despair? I mean, there I do feel a contradiction, because I actually do agree that I think in the result of it, if we hadn't had to deal with the end singer and hadn't had to push through all this more consciously made despair, I think there's a good chance we might not have survived, or we might have ended up in the same position as the Aya, whereas right now we're stronger for it. At the same time, I don't believe that. That's the same. It could be the same sort of thing as, like, what if this horrific historical atrocity led to the current day's peacefulness? Or not that today is peaceful, but what if it stopped some kind of even more apocalyptic scenario from occurring? And, like, yes, that is possible. Like, there's that whole butterfly effect thing. At the same time, if I were living then, I wouldn't want to be working to ensure that catastrophe, that calamity came about. I would be still trying to stop it. Omega, from my perspective, and I'm not coming to a conclusion because I don't know the answer. This is just the thoughts that are coming to mind. From my perspective, his determination was similar to that of the Omicron's ancestors, who first began trading flesh for machines so our people might stand against the onslaught of aggression from other races. It was an unprecedented attempt, accompanied by much failure and sacrifice. Their early experiments were crude, primitive. Had they not made those first advances, however, we would have remained vulnerable to our environment. The violence would have utterly consumed us, which frankly would probably be a better outcome than what actually happened, which is you consuming half the friggin' galaxy with your empire. And what of Emmett Selk himself? Judging by your retelling, he was a benevolent ally saddled with tragic fate. Yet I remember the years when my instruments fed me data from events across the star. During that time, I witnessed his Ascians engineer multiple instances of cataclysmic strife. These calamities, as you know them, were responsible for planet-wide destruction. A man whose endgame relied upon the extinction of all modern mortals must by definition be your worst enemy. He was. He was absolutely our worst enemy. As well as a great character and a tragic figure. I require an answer. As a being of heart and soul, how do you classify each of these pivotal figures? Thank God I don't actually have to classify them. They're antagonists, they're historical monsters, they're great characters, they're tragic figures, they're all those things. From your perspective, which of them was most justified in their actions? They were all justified, but they were all justified in their own way. It doesn't mean I think that all of them were right. I think they were definitely all justified, and like, they didn't act randomly or without any sort of reason. I think that Venan made the best action. Hermes made a reasonable action. Emmett Selk was tougher to say, because Emmett Selk was tempered. But Emmett Selk also helped summon Zodiark in the first place. I'm going to say they were all justified in their own way. As much as I believe that none of them were... God, I don't know how to respond to this. I'm going to guess, by the way, that of all the people who... If you were to poll every single player who answers this question, the loser is going to be Hermes. I think Hermes is going to get the least support on this. And I think they were all justified in their own way, gets them... Or Vana, a tie for them. Well, God, the others are tough. None of them were, I think, also gets the least... will get the... So I think Hermes is the least popular. None of them were, I think, would be second least popular. I'm going to go with they were justified in their own way. I think they were. Doesn't mean I think some of them were... I think some of them were horrific actions, but I think they all considered themselves justified. I think I understand. The Watcher, you seek a definitive answer, yet based on our experiences, Kakushu and I might develop very different opinions. In the same fashion, you are free to form your own thoughts on the matter. Do not be so swift to consider them without merit. I do not have my own thoughts on the matter. I assess each situation with the same logic pathways available to every Omicron. But that brings us back to Sir, who seemed to go outside of those parameters, and I think you might be going outside them too. Even if 1,000 Omicrons were asked to analyze the same event, they would all return the same result, regardless of individual experience. There is no strength to be found in fractured reasoning. That I 100% disagree with. Nonetheless, I find your input valuable, recording data alongside interview results. This concludes my investigation. I will reanalyze the accumulated info and examine the factors which led to Sir's incomprehensible decision. Back to Thaumazein. The Spectacle Technician, I'm bursting to ask about your experiences with Omega, but I don't wish to be a pest. Alright, well... Wedge, how are you doing? I wasn't sure you'd be back. Yeah, I'm here. Biggs. Ah, there you are, right at the last moment. Your journey with Omega was properly educational, I hope it was. We'd planned to ask you all about it and that mysterious mystery transmission besides, but I'm afraid something urgent has come up. One of our Ironworks associates has fouled up a job elsewhere, and Jesse needs Wedge and me to rush in and lend a hand. Okay. Let's go. We'll do a walk and talk. Big. So you've cleared up all those points of confusion then. Boy, is that a long non-answer from Omega. I had mistakenly classified your intangible heart as an ability of some kind. An uncanny power that Omicrons could neither learn nor even measure. I want to take a screenshot of that little walk. Even now, its full nature yet eludes my comprehension. Based upon our investigations, however, I've decided to alter my definition. A phenomenon which influences one's interpretation of reality. That is as close to an answer as I have found. Accordingly, Sir's actions upon meeting Medion strongly indicate the presence of a heart. I love the way that they've shot this whole thing, the walk and talk, and having little Omega now looking out on the universe from a very different perspective. Sir did not follow routine logic, but formulated an independent assessment based upon the reality it perceived. It felt that the best recourse for the Omicrons was to cease their expansion and terminate all functions. This makes me so happy. The contemplative tone of this whole quest line, the speed of it, the pace of it, the development, how it feels, how natural it feels as an outcome of everything we went through, everything Omega went through. And we still haven't gotten to the message. Well, here's our ship. Yeah, what spill the beans, Omega. Time you told us what was in that transmission from the flight logs. Acknowledged, I will uphold the terms of our agreement. The recording salvaged from the Ragnarok was a simple one. The message is so basic, in fact, that the time I spent listening to it may result in a net loss of value. Shall I continue? Yeah, he's not trolling, but they're trolling, but converting dialect coding to local language. Is it a message from the Omicrons? That would be unlikely. To whomever receives this message out there in the vast reaches of the cosmos. To someone, I hope, who looks up at the stars with the same wistful gaze as mine. Same wistful gaze Omega just looked up at the stars with. To you I say, forge ahead. May all our tomorrows be blessed with joy. Again, I'm very happy right now. Boy, what a message in a bottle we just got. The message has no designated recipient. It lacks purpose. The concept of joy is overly abstract. The vocal supplication to manifest said joy is unrealistic in its optimism. Maybe. Yet based upon their expressions, and this is the thought, that's what the transparent background, this is Omega thinking. Yet based upon their expressions, my assessment of the transmission's value conflicts with its apparent impact. I fail to understand you, sir. Your heart still confuses me. This is so good. Was termination of everything the correct course? How did you arrive at this conclusion? It defies all my attempts at reasoning, but I was designed to evolve. If I continue to learn, the probability that I eventually comprehend this phenomenon is greater than 0. So I will put the dilemma of your decision aside for now. And continue my existence upon this distant star, As I dwell among these many life forms, so will I continue to piece together the complete shape of their mortal hearts. I must document their progress. You have your own progress to be documenting too. You're not a watcher, you're a participant at this point. Omega. Your contribution to my education is appreciated, Kakushu. Indeed, I have amassed a satisfying quantity of valuable data. Now that our negotiated business has been completed, however, Alpha and I will return to traveling the world. Drawing on recent experience, I am confident we can expand the radius of our ventures by a significant margin. I wonder if they'll be on the moon or where they'll be. I'm now familiar with... We need not limit ourselves to Eorzea. I'm now familiar with Sharlayan and Radzat Han, and would also like to revisit the freezing climes of Garla... Bloop? I neglected to instruct Biggs and Wedge to upgrade my climate shielding. Ah, rough. I will remount my request to Deputy President Jessie. She's Deputy President? Engaging ambulation and parting salutations. Farewell, Kakushu. Goodbye, Alpha. Vigorous. Alpha gives a vigorous shake and draws forth a scrap of paper from under his wing. Que? It seems he wants you to have it. Perhaps this is his way of thanking you? The flow together orchestra. You gave me an orchestration role. Oh my good lord. Okay, thank you. Swiftly Alpha. Oh, Omega. Swiftly Alpha. The road is long and we've barely begun our journey. I'm in my residence, in the Free Company personal room here, just listening to the song that Alpha just gave me, Flow Together. And I think this is where I'm going to leave it off for today. This has been... This is just blows... I did not expect... I thought this was going to be like a little delivery quest. I didn't expect this. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's where we'll leave it off. Next time, I will continue back to Old Sharlayan or Radzat Han to look at some of those other side quests. I don't expect anything to be on this scale, but I'm just curious to see some of the other epilogues, and then we'll move on to the little plus quests, the blue plus quests that open some stuff up that I saw there. So yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, if you want to like and subscribe, it's much appreciated. It helps others people see this, and it feels good for me to see. So yeah, see you all later. Bye-bye.